Tyler Manning had always been the kind of man to take on impossible odds. He joined the Interstellar Exploration Corps fresh out of high school, not because he was the best or the brightest, but because he had something inside him that couldn't be ignored: drive. That thirst for adventure, that need to push beyond what was known and find new frontiers, had shaped him since he was a boy. Now, standing before the Clorvian Empire, the most advanced species in the galaxy, Tyler wasn't sure if his ambition would be enough. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Tyler had been sent on a diplomatic mission, a routine visit to discuss trade between Earth and the Clorvians. He had expected tense meetings, cold diplomacy, maybe a few lectures from their leaders on how backward humanity was, but nothing he couldn't handle. A simple task, right? But nothing was ever simple with the Clorvians. The trouble had started when Tyler felt sick. At first, it was just a headache. Then came the chills, followed by a fever that seemed to burn from the inside out. His body ached, his joints stiffening as if they were turning to ice. His vision blurred, and he could barely keep his eyes open. It was so sudden, so overwhelming, and it wasn't long before the Clorvian doctors took notice. They insisted on scanning him. It was their standard protocol, after all. Any foreign species, any sign of illness, and they didn't hesitate to intervene. That was when they found it, the virus in his blood. Tyler didn't think much of it at first. After all, the Clorvians had the most advanced medical technology in the galaxy. If it was just some harmless bug, they'd get rid of it in no time. But the moment they examined his blood, their expressions changed. They called in more specialists. Tyler was moved to a containment facility, a sterile room with white walls and cold, clinical equipment. The Clorvians didn't talk about what they found in front of him, but Tyler could see their concern in the way they acted. Urgent whispers between scientists, eyes constantly flicking to the monitors. One Clorvian physician, Dr. Talos, had briefly mentioned that the virus was unlike anything they had ever encountered, and it was adapting, evolving in real time. Tyler had asked what that meant. The answer was vague. No one seemed to know what was happening. But then, things started to change in his own body. At first, it was subtle. He felt slightly stronger, more alert, despite the fever still ravaging his body. His muscles felt tighter, like someone had plugged him into an energy source. And then the strange sensations began, the way his senses heightened. He could hear the tiniest of movements in the room, even the softest shuffle of the Clorvian attendants. His vision sharpened, every detail around him clearer than ever before. It was almost as if his body was rejecting the sickness, turning it into something useful. But the worst part, the part that terrified him most, the virus inside him, it was laughing. Tyler couldn't hear it in the traditional sense, not with his ears. No, this was something deeper. He could feel it like a presence within his body, a pulse that echoed with amusement. It wasn't hostile, it wasn't harmful, but it was mocking, taunting. It wasn't long before the Clorvians realized that this was no ordinary virus. It was changing. It was evolving faster than their technology could keep up with. The virus didn't just adapt to their treatment methods, it thrived on them. Every shot, every antidote, every genetic modification they tried made it stronger, more powerful. In the sterile medical room, with its bright lights and cold machines, Tyler could sense something shifting. The Clorvians, with their vast knowledge and unimaginable technology, were no longer in control. The virus had taken the reins, and Tyler could feel it as it twisted inside of him, growing, changing, as if the virus was learning from his very cells. As the hours passed, Tyler's body seemed to accelerate. His physical strength increased at an unnatural pace. His fever was still high, but he could ignore it now, focusing on the strange power building inside him. His senses were heightened, but so was his mind. The virus was somehow amplifying his thoughts, his reflexes. He was processing things faster than before. It was as if the virus was unlocking parts of his brain, taking him to the edges of human capability, and then pushing him beyond. But there was still that laughter. At first it was faint, a whisper in the back of his mind. But now it was louder, like a voice that couldn't be ignored. It didn't make sense. A virus didn't have a consciousness. It couldn't laugh, could it? Yet Tyler could feel it, as if it were alive inside him. The alien scientists had said nothing about the laughter, but it was clear they were frightened. They hadn't seen anything like it. They'd sent for reinforcements, more experts from distant worlds, even higher authorities from the Clorvian government, but no one had answers. The virus was evolving too quickly. They hadn't told Tyler much, but he could see it in their eyes. They didn't know how to stop it. They were frightened. The virus was beyond their control. He didn't know how, but Tyler realized one thing: the virus was inside him for a reason. It was using him for something. It wasn't just turning him into a monster, it was enhancing him. Tyler could feel it deep inside, like the virus was part of him now. And as the days passed, he grew more certain of one thing: the virus wasn't just adapting, it was planning. It was learning from him. And Tyler, he was learning from it too. The question gnawed at him. Why? What was this virus really doing? And then it hit him: it wasn't just in his blood, it was inside his mind. Tyler could sense the deeper connection now. The virus wasn't trying to destroy him, it was trying to teach him. Every moment that passed, he could feel the virus inside him becoming more integrated, like it was using his body as a vessel for something far greater. His senses had expanded, but so had his understanding. It wasn't just the virus adapting, it was coaching him, making him stronger, faster, smarter, making him more than human. He wasn't just a lab experiment, he was the key to something much bigger. Tyler's body began to hum with unnatural energy, his every movement fluid and precise. The virus had enhanced his human limits. His reflexes were faster than ever before, and his mind was a steel trap, filled with knowledge he never had before. It wasn't just the biological enhancement. It was like the virus was communicating with him, showing him how to unlock the power inside of him. He could feel it now: the laughter that had once mocked him. It was gone, replaced by something else. A feeling of control, of purpose. The virus wasn't a threat anymore, it was a tool. Tyler knew deep down that something terrible was coming. The Chlorvians were no longer in control of the virus, and their fear of it was palpable. They could not contain it. But he wasn't going to let that fear consume him. The virus inside him wasn't just a weapon, it was his strength, his power, his chance to survive. The doors to the containment room slid open, and Chlorvian soldiers entered, their weapons drawn. They had come to take him, to kill him if necessary. Tyler stood up, feeling the virus pulse within him. He didn't know how long he could keep the virus in check, how much longer he could keep his humanity intact, but he was no longer afraid. They had underestimated him. They had underestimated humanity. Now it was time for them to find out what it really meant to face a human. Tyler's lips curled into a smile. The virus was still there, alive within him, but now it wasn't laughing. Tyler Manning lay on the sterile medical table, staring at the ceiling of the Chlorvian lab, his mind swirling in a haze of confusion and dread. The virus had taken hold of him in a way he couldn't fully understand. Every time the doctors ran another scan, they couldn't hide their panic. His body was changing, faster than anything they had ever seen. The virus inside him was alive, and it wasn't just consuming him. It was evolving, adapting, as if it had a will of its own. The laughter, always that unsettling, mocking laughter, echoed inside his mind. It had started as a faint whisper, a ripple of sound that Tyler could ignore, but now it was louder, like an obnoxious voice laughing at him from the inside. At first, it felt like the virus was mocking him, like a cruel joke at his expense. But the more he thought about it, the more he realized it wasn't laughing at him. It was laughing with him. It was as if the virus, this alien creation, had seen something in him. Something that was pushing him beyond what he thought possible. Tyler's body burned with fever, his muscles twitching as the virus worked its strange magic. His reflexes were sharper, his mind clearer. He could feel his blood pumping faster, his body growing stronger. But it wasn't enough. It was only a matter of time before the Chlorvians realized that they couldn't control the virus. They couldn't control him. The room around him was cold, clinical, a constant reminder that he was now a specimen in their eyes. But Tyler wasn't a specimen. He was a man, and he was determined to prove it. His thoughts drifted back to Earth. His family, his friends, the life he had left behind. Would he ever see them again? Would he even survive this nightmare? The Chlorvians didn't know how to stop the virus, and that gave him a strange kind of hope. The virus was alive, yes, but it wasn't an enemy. It was something far more complex, something that could change him, something that was giving him the strength to survive. A soft beep from a nearby monitor snapped him back to reality. The Chlorvian doctors were getting closer. They had been running tests for hours, trying to find a way to contain him, to figure out what the virus was doing to him. But Tyler knew what they didn't. The virus wasn't hurting him. It was making him stronger. It was changing him, pushing him towards something new, something beyond human. The door to the room slid open, and Dr. Talos, the lead Chlorvian physician, entered with a few of his assistants. They walked with purpose, their faces unreadable behind their sleek helmets. Their eyes scanned the readouts on the monitors, but Tyler could see the concern behind their calm expressions. The Chlorvians didn't know what they were dealing with. They didn't know how to fix it. "You're still holding up, Manning," Dr. Talos said, his voice cold, clinical. "But we've run out of time. If we don't act soon, the virus will spread too far. We won't be able to stop it." Tyler's heart skipped a beat. He could hear the desperation in Talos's voice despite his calm demeanor. "What does that mean?" Tyler asked, his voice hoarse from the fever. "It means we don't have a cure," Talos replied. "And if it keeps evolving like this, you will cease to be human. You'll become something else entirely." Tyler's mind raced, the laughter inside him growing louder. It was like the virus was laughing at Dr. Talos's words, something else entirely. Tyler shifted, the virus inside him pulsing with energy. It felt as if it were urging him to act. A sudden clarity washed over him. This was his chance. The Clorvians didn't know what they were up against. They were terrified of the virus, terrified of the way it was changing him. But Tyler wasn't afraid. He wasn't about to let them control him, let them dictate his fate. He needed to escape, and the time to do that was now. Without thinking, he reached out and grabbed the nearest medical tool, a syringe filled with a strange blue liquid. It was the same stuff the Clorvians had been injecting into him to fight the virus, but Tyler had no intention of using it the way they wanted. As Dr. Talos continued his explanation, Tyler's fingers moved quickly. He pulled the syringe from the table, smashing it against the restraints holding his arms in place. The glass shattered, and with a burst of strength he didn't know he had, Tyler broke free from his bindings. He stood, his legs shaky from the virus's effect on his body, but he refused to fall. He had no time to waste. The Clorvians turned in shock. Dr. Talos's eyes widened as Tyler grabbed the syringe and hurled it toward him. The Clorvian stumbled back, raising his hands in defense, but Tyler was already on the move. He darted to the door, his body moving faster than he had ever thought possible. The virus inside him was like a surge of electricity, pushing him to his limits. Tyler burst through the door, and the Clorvian guards stationed outside didn't have time to react. He was faster than they were. He was stronger than they were. The virus had made him into something else, something they couldn't predict. He ran through the corridors of the facility, his mind focused on one thing: escape. He didn't know how long he had before they sent reinforcements, but he couldn't stop. Every step he took felt like an explosion of power coursing through his veins. The laughter inside him wasn't mocking anymore. It was alive, a part of him now, and it fueled his every movement. As he turned a corner, he saw the exit ahead. A large metal door stood in his way, guarded by 2 Clorvian soldiers. They didn't see him coming. With one swift move, Tyler lunged forward, his body moving faster than he ever could have imagined. He tackled the first soldier, sending him crashing to the floor, and before the second could react, Tyler had taken his weapon and disabled him in one fluid motion. The door was now within reach. Tyler's heart raced as he ran toward it. He could hear the Clorvians shouting behind him, their footsteps growing louder. But Tyler wasn't looking back. He was already outside. He didn't stop to look at the stars above him, didn't stop to think about how far he'd come. He ran. The night air was bitter cold, but Tyler barely felt it. The virus inside him burned, its energy radiating out of him in waves. His body was changing, and he could feel it with every step. But it wasn't just the virus. It was his mind, his determination, pushing him forward. He wasn't just running for his life anymore. He was running for his freedom. He could hear the Clorvians' ships approaching, their engines roaring as they closed in on him. Tyler didn't slow down. He wouldn't give them the satisfaction of catching him. He had come too far. As the Clorvian ships descended on him, he spotted a small transport vessel nearby. It wasn't much, but it would do. Tyler ran toward it, his pulse pounding in his ears. The Clorvians were nearly on top of him now, their ships blocking the sky, but Tyler didn't hesitate. He jumped into the cockpit, slamming his hand down on the control panel. The engine roared to life. The Clorvians were too late. Tyler grinned to himself as the transport vessel shot into the sky. He had made it. The virus inside him was still there, still laughing, but it wasn't in control anymore. Tyler was, and he was going to make sure the Clorvians never made the mistake of underestimating a human again. He was free. Tyler Manning's heart raced as he gripped the controls of the Clorvian transport ship, the stars streaking past him as he fought to keep the vessel steady. His body was still trembling from the escape, his muscles sore, his mind buzzing with a mix of fear, confusion, and triumph. He had escaped the Clorvian facility, but the virus inside him was far from gone. In fact, it felt stronger now, its influence spreading through every inch of his body, reshaping him in ways he didn't fully understand. He glanced at the control panel, his mind sharp and alert despite the chaos in his body. The Chlorvians had underestimated him, but they had also given him something he hadn't expected: power. The virus, while dangerous, had given him abilities he never thought possible. He could feel the strength coursing through him, the heightened senses, the speed. He was becoming something more than human. But there was still one thing he didn't know: why. Tyler's thoughts raced back to the moment he first felt the virus stir inside of him. The first time it had mocked him, laughing as it spread through his blood. The Chlorvians had been terrified, but they hadn't told him the truth about the virus. He could feel it inside him, growing and adapting, learning from his very cells. It wasn't just a biological infection, it was something deeper, something almost intelligent. But why? What did it want with him? The ship's engines hummed beneath him, the faint whine of the drive filling the silence. Tyler's eyes flicked to the distant stars. He didn't know where he was going, but he couldn't stay on the Chlorvian-controlled planet. The moment they figured out he was gone, they would come after him. He needed to find a place where he could hide, where the virus inside him could evolve, where he could find answers. As the ship soared through the void of space, Tyler's thoughts turned back to Earth, his home, the place he had once known, filled with the warmth of family and friends, the place he had been torn away from, left to face this alien nightmare. Would he ever return? Would anyone on Earth even understand what had happened to him? The virus, the power it had given him, was it something that could help them, or would it be their downfall? Tyler shook his head, pushing the thoughts aside. Now wasn't the time for doubt. He had to focus on what lay ahead. He needed to understand this virus, how it had changed him, and how to use it before the Chlorvians, or anyone, could control it. A small beeping noise interrupted his thoughts. A warning light flashed on the control panel, indicating something was wrong. The ship's systems were starting to malfunction. Tyler's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't a pilot. The Chlorvian technology was advanced, but it was still unfamiliar to him, and the virus wasn't helping him in this area. It wasn't a technical problem, it was a biological one. His body was rejecting the ship's systems. The virus, which had enhanced his reflexes, his strength, and his mind, was now affecting him on a deeper level. It was like it was trying to integrate with the ship itself. The virus didn't just want his body, it wanted to control everything around him. Tyler's hands clenched around the controls as he tried to steady the ship, but the virus was relentless. It was almost like it was trying to connect with the very circuits of the ship. Tyler gritted his teeth, refusing to let the virus take over completely. His mind had always been his strongest asset. He wasn't going to let this alien infection control him. He slammed his hand down on the emergency override, forcing the ship's systems to recalibrate. With a low hum, the ship stabilized, but Tyler could feel the strain in his body. His pulse was erratic, and a wave of dizziness washed over him. The virus was demanding more, and he didn't know how long he could keep it in check. "Come on, Tyler," he muttered to himself, his voice barely audible over the hum of the ship. "You've survived worse. You can handle this." But the virus wasn't listening. It was laughing again, only this time it was different. It wasn't the mocking sound he had heard before. This time it was as if the virus was communicating with him, urging him to give in. The laughter echoed in his mind, pushing him to let go of his control. It was tempting, so tempting. But Tyler knew that if he let go, if he let the virus take full control, he would lose himself. He would lose his humanity. He squeezed his eyes shut, fighting to regain control. He could feel the virus writhing beneath his skin, shifting inside him. It was like a second heartbeat, pulsing with a power he couldn't fully comprehend. But Tyler wasn't going to let it win. A sharp pain pierced his chest, and Tyler gasped, his fingers clutching at his shirt as if he could somehow stop it. The virus was pushing harder, trying to break free. The ship's systems were no longer responding to his commands as they should. Tyler had no choice now. He had to act fast, or he would lose everything. He reached for the small compartment beneath the console where he had stored the emergency supplies. Among them was a small, handheld device, a Chlorvian communicator. It wasn't much, but it could send a distress signal back to Earth, or at least contact someone, if the Chlorvians didn't get to him first. With trembling hands, Tyler activated the communicator, sending out a signal with the limited power he had left. He wasn't sure who would receive it, but he had to believe someone would hear his call. As he waited for a response, the pain in his chest intensified. The virus was getting stronger, its influence spreading faster than he could control. It was as if the virus was trying to merge with his very thoughts, twisting his reality. Tyler could hear the laughter again, louder this time. The virus was enjoying his struggle, enjoying the power it had over him. "No," Tyler's mind snapped back into focus. The virus wasn't in control, he was. With one last surge of will, Tyler forced the virus into submission, pushing it back down into the depths of his mind. His body still trembled with the effort, but the laughter quieted. The virus had been stopped. For now. Tyler took a shaky breath, his eyes still locked on the communicator. The screen flickered and then a message appeared. It was a signal from Earth. Tyler Manning, this is Commander Hale from Earth Command. We've received your distress signal. Hold on, we're coming for you. Tyler's heart skipped a beat. Earth was still out there. They hadn't forgotten about him. The message was a lifeline, and for the first time since he'd been captured, Tyler felt a flicker of hope. But his journey wasn't over yet. The virus was still inside him, still learning, still evolving. He had no idea what would happen next. Would it continue to enhance him, or would it destroy him? Could he ever be fully human again? He didn't have the answers, but Tyler knew one thing for certain: he wasn't going to stop fighting. Not now, not ever. The virus, the Chlorvians, the galaxy, they all underestimated him. But he had survived, and as long as he had breath in his lungs, he would keep fighting. Tyler Manning had something that no one, not even a galaxy of advanced species, could take away from him. Hope. Tyler Manning's breath was ragged, his body trembling as he gripped the controls of the transport ship. The pain in his chest was unbearable, a sharp ache that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of his heart, but it wasn't the physical pain that made him dizzy, it was the power inside him. The virus was growing stronger, its influence spreading like wildfire, pushing him to the edge. He could feel it shifting beneath his skin, expanding its reach, taking over his body and mind. He didn't know how much longer he could hold on. The virus wasn't just in his blood anymore. It was in his head, in his thoughts. It was everywhere, growing, learning, adapting. Tyler had never imagined that something like this could happen, something so alien, so powerful, living inside him. But it wasn't just a virus. It was evolving, changing like it had a life of its own. He could feel it, and it was terrifying. The virus had started as something destructive, something that mocked him, laughing inside his body. But now it was no longer laughing. It was urging him forward, pushing him to do things he never thought possible. His reflexes were sharper, his thoughts faster. He could hear the hum of the ship's engines, the vibration of the controls beneath his fingertips, as if his senses had expanded beyond the normal human limits. Tyler didn't understand it. He didn't know what the virus wanted, what it was trying to achieve by making him stronger, faster, more aware. Was it preparing him for something? Was it building him into something more than human? He clenched his fists, trying to fight it, but the power inside him was too overwhelming. The virus was no longer something he could ignore. It was a part of him. He could feel its presence like a shadow that never left, guiding him, showing him how to unlock potential he never knew he had. His body was changing, evolving, becoming something more, but the price was steep. Every movement felt like a struggle, like a tug-of-war between his humanity and the virus controlling him. He couldn't trust it. He couldn't let it take over completely, but he also couldn't deny what it was giving him. Tyler's eyes darted around the cockpit of the transport ship. He was still in the Chlorvian sector, drifting away from their planet. He had no idea where he was going, no clear destination. All he knew was that he needed to get away. He needed to put as much distance between himself and the Chlorvians as possible, but even as he thought about escape, the virus inside him kept pushing. It wanted more. It wanted everything. A voice, distant and faint, cut through the chaos in his head. Tyler. His hands froze on the controls. It wasn't a voice from his ship's communication system. It was in his mind. Tyler, you can do it. You have the power now. Tyler's heart pounded. Who was speaking? The voice was calm, comforting, and yet somehow familiar. It echoed through his thoughts like a whisper of someone he should know. He wasn't sure if it was the virus speaking to him or something else entirely, but it felt real. He shook his head, trying to clear his thoughts. What do you want from me? He muttered aloud, gripping the controls tighter as his head swam with dizziness. We want you to embrace it. You are becoming something greater, something beyond human. Don't fight it. Let it take you. Tyler's breath hitched. This wasn't just the virus anymore. It was something more. It was controlling his thoughts, weaving into his mind, trying to make him believe in this power, this transformation. It wanted him to give in, to become its vessel, its agent. No, Tyler whispered. I'm not like you. I'm not some weapon you're trying to make. The voice was silent for a moment, and Tyler thought maybe he had won. Maybe he had pushed it back, regained some control. But then it came again, this time stronger, more insistent. You're already becoming one, Tyler. You were always meant for this. The virus isn't your enemy, it is the key to your true strength. Tyler gritted his teeth, his hands tightening on the controls. The ship jolted as the virus inside him surged again, its power surging through his veins, making him feel like a volcano about to explode. The voice wasn't just a whisper anymore. It was a command, urging him to let go, to give himself fully to the virus's power. But Tyler refused. He had to refuse. He couldn't become a puppet to this thing inside him. He was human, and he wasn't going to lose himself to whatever the virus wanted him to be. His head spun, but through the dizziness, something clicked. He could feel the ship's energy, feel the subtle hum of the systems, the ship's need for fuel, for power. The virus was growing inside him, but it wasn't just influencing his body. It was teaching him, showing him how to feel the energy, how to manipulate it. Tyler focused, his mind clearer than ever before, and with a sudden burst of will, he reached out, connecting with the ship's systems on an instinctual level. He didn't understand how he did it, but it was like a switch flipped in his mind. His fingers tapped the control panel, and suddenly the ship was responding to him, moving faster, sharper, more efficiently. He was no longer just piloting the ship, he was becoming part of it. And then he realized something else. The virus inside him wasn't just enhancing him physically. It was unlocking a deeper understanding of the world around him. The virus wasn't trying to control him. It was giving him the keys to unlock his potential. But the price for this power was high. The virus was slowly taking over his body. His veins felt like they were on fire, his mind teetering on the edge of control. It was like a constant battle inside him, fighting against the virus, yet using it to survive. Tyler knew that if he wasn't careful, he would lose himself completely. He had to stay grounded to remind himself that he was human. He couldn't forget that. Tyler adjusted the course of the ship, now moving with the precision of a machine, but it felt different. It didn't feel like the virus was in control. He was. He had taken control of the ship's systems, of the power flowing through him. He wasn't fighting the virus anymore. He was learning from it. But that didn't mean he trusted it. The stars outside the window stretched into long lines as the ship picked up speed. Tyler could feel the energy flowing through him, every muscle, every fiber of his being heightened beyond what was possible. He was no longer just a man. He was something else, something more. But was it worth the price? He didn't know. In the distance, a faint signal flashed across the communication screen. Earth's command center. A distress signal, faint but clear. Tyler's heart skipped a beat. They had found him. They had heard his signal. He couldn't go back yet, not like this. Not when the virus still had its claws in him. But he couldn't stay here forever. He had to figure out what this power was, what the virus wanted from him before the Chlorvians, or anyone else, found out how dangerous he had become. Tyler's grip tightened on the controls as the stars grew brighter ahead. He was still in control for now. But the battle wasn't over. He had a long way to go, and the virus was still inside him, waiting, watching, laughing. And Tyler Manning knew one thing for sure. The universe would never be the same again. He wasn't just a man anymore. He was something far greater, and he was ready to face whatever came next. Tyler Manning's breath came in ragged gasps, his heart pounding in his chest as the transport ship raced through space. The stars were a blur outside the cockpit window, a stream of bright lights that felt as distant as his old life on Earth. Inside him, the virus was alive, twisting, shifting, growing stronger by the hour. It was more than just an infection now. It was a part of him, and no matter how hard he tried to push it away, it only dug its claws in deeper. He didn't know what the virus wanted. He didn't understand why it had latched onto him or why it was turning him into something he didn't recognize. But one thing was clear, it wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about control. It wanted him to give in, to embrace the power it offered. But Tyler wasn't ready for that, not yet. He wasn't sure if he could fight it. He had tried. He had fought so hard to keep the virus from taking over, but it was relentless. Every moment it whispered in the back of his mind, urging him to let go, to let the power take control. Sometimes he could almost hear it laughing, a cruel, mocking sound that made his skin crawl, but Tyler wasn't a monster. He refused to be. The ship's controls were barely within his grasp as his fingers twitched with the strange power that seemed to flow through his body. The virus had enhanced his reflexes, sharpened his senses. He could feel the ship's engine humming beneath him, its systems buzzing with life as if they were synchronized with the beat of his own heart. Every movement was effortless, every action smoother than before, like his body had become a machine. But it wasn't him. It was the virus. "Focus, Tyler," he muttered to himself, trying to block out the overwhelming sensation of the virus pushing against his thoughts. You're in control. You have to stay in control. His ship had broken free from the Clorvian sector, leaving behind the cold, sterile lab where he had been experimented on. He had escaped, but the Clorvians wouldn't stop searching for him. They wouldn't stop until they got him back, and now Tyler knew something that terrified him. The virus wasn't just a biological weapon. It was alive, and it had plans. He had no idea what those plans were, but it was clear the Clorvians wanted him back. They would stop at nothing to capture him, to harness the power that was now inside him. A soft ping interrupted his thoughts. Tyler's eyes snapped to the console, a distress signal. It was faint, barely detectable, but it was there. His heart skipped a beat. Tyler, are you receiving this? This is Commander Hale from Earth Command. We've located your position. We're coming for you. Tyler's pulse quickened. Earth, his home, it was real. They hadn't forgotten about him. They knew he was out here. But he wasn't sure if he was ready to go back, not like this. He wasn't sure what he had become, but he wasn't the same man who had left Earth. The virus had changed him, and if he wasn't careful, it might destroy him. He turned his attention back to the stars ahead, the vast emptiness of space stretching out before him. There was no turning back now. The Clorvians would never stop hunting him. And Earth wouldn't know what hit them when he arrived. He wasn't sure what kind of monster he had become, but he couldn't let Earth fall victim to the same thing that had happened to him. Tyler's fingers tightened on the ship's controls as the laughter in his mind grew louder. It was almost deafening now, the voice of the virus teasing him, pulling at him, trying to break his resolve. You're not human anymore. Why fight it? He closed his eyes, pushing the thoughts away, refusing to let the virus take over. He couldn't let it win. He wouldn't let it win. But then a sharp pain shot through his chest. His body buckled as the virus surged inside him, an overwhelming wave of power flooding his system. It felt like every cell in his body was on fire, like his very DNA was being rewritten. Tyler gasped for air, struggling to keep the ship on course as his body writhed with the agony of change. He felt his muscles spasming, the energy inside him growing stronger. The virus was taking control, and he couldn't stop it. His vision blurred, and for a moment he thought he might pass out. But then, in the haze of pain, something inside him snapped. He wasn't just going to let this thing consume him. He wasn't just going to sit back and let it take over. He was going to fight. Tyler slammed his fists down on the control panel, using every ounce of his strength to override the virus's influence. The pain was unbearable, but the clearer his mind became, the more he realized something else. The virus wasn't trying to destroy him. It was transforming him. It wasn't a weapon to be feared. It was an evolution. And Tyler wasn't sure if he was ready for it, but he couldn't stop it. He had to learn to control it, to make it his strength instead of his downfall. With a force of will he didn't know he had, Tyler pushed the virus back, forcing it to retreat into the corners of his mind. His body still ached, but he had regained control. For now. The ship's system stabilized, and Tyler took a deep, shaky breath. The virus was still inside him, still there, but now it was his to command. He could feel it like a power surging just beneath the surface. It was alive, but it wasn't the master anymore. He was. But as the pain faded and the laughter inside him subsided, Tyler realized something else, something that made his stomach drop. The Clorvian fleet was closing in. Tyler's eyes snapped to the console. The Clorvian ships were already on his tail, their sleek forms cutting through space like predators. They had found him. They had tracked his ship to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, and now they were ready to finish what they had started. Tyler's mind raced. He wasn't sure how much longer he could keep the virus under control, but there was no choice now. He had to fight back. He had to survive. The Clorvian ships opened fire, their weapons lighting up the dark expanse of space as they targeted his transport ship. Tyler's pulse quickened as the ship rocked from the impact, alarms blaring in his ears. Without thinking, Tyler reached for the ship's weapons system, his hands moving with lightning speed. He had never been trained to fight in space, but the virus inside him had given him instincts he never had before. His fingers danced over the controls, locking onto the Clorvian ships. He fired. The first Clorvian ship exploded into a ball of fire, its hull shattered by the blast. Tyler's heart raced, but he couldn't stop. There were more Clorvian ships coming, their weapons aimed directly at him. He fired again and again. One by one, the Clorvian ships were destroyed, each explosion lighting up the void of space, a testament to the power Tyler now wielded. But with each kill, the virus inside him surged, growing stronger, more insistent. It wanted more. Tyler's hands shook as he gripped the controls. He was becoming something else, something dangerous. But the Chlorvians didn't know what they had awakened. They didn't understand the power of the human spirit, and they were about to learn the hard way. As the last Chlorvian ship fell into the darkness, Tyler allowed himself a moment of relief. His body was covered in sweat, his breath shallow from the exertion, but the adrenaline was wearing off, and he could feel the virus inside him pulsing with energy, like a living thing pushing him to keep going. Tyler knew one thing for sure. The Chlorvians hadn't seen the last of him, and the next time they came for him, they wouldn't find a scared human. They would find a force they couldn't control. He had become more than human, and now he was going to make sure the galaxy would never forget it. The stars outside Tyler Manning's ship were no longer just distant lights. They felt close, like a reminder of everything he had left behind on Earth. The storm had passed, but the weight of what he had become hung heavily in the quiet of space. The virus inside him had changed everything: his body, his mind, even the way he saw the universe. He was stronger, faster, and more powerful than he had ever imagined, but it came with a cost. The virus wasn't just a biological weapon. It was part of him now, and he wasn't sure how much longer he could keep it under control. Tyler had destroyed the Chlorvian ships that had chased him, but he knew it wasn't over. He had seen the Chlorvians retreating, but he could still feel their presence, their anger. The Chlorvian Empire didn't back down easily, especially after being humiliated by a single human. They would come again, stronger, more prepared. Tyler knew he couldn't run forever. He couldn't keep hiding from the very thing that was inside him. But as the transport ship cut through the void of space, Tyler realized something. He wasn't just running from the Chlorvians anymore. He was running from himself, from the power that surged within him, from the changes that were happening to his body and mind. The laughter, the mocking, the push to become something more, he didn't know what it meant or where it would lead. But he knew he had to face it. He had to face what the virus had made him. His fingers tightened around the controls, his eyes fixed on the navigation screen. There was no clear destination, no safe place to go, but he couldn't keep running. He had to take control of his fate, of this new power that was both a gift and a curse. He activated the ship's comms, sending out a signal back to Earth Command. The faint hope of contact, the thought that someone on Earth might be looking for him, kept him grounded. "Commander Hale, this is Tyler Manning," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos in his mind. "I've made it out, but I need help. I can't do this alone." The silence on the other end of the comms stretched on, and for a moment, Tyler wondered if anyone would hear him. The virus inside him was growing stronger by the day, its influence seeping into every part of his being. He wasn't sure what Earth would think of him now. Would they still see him as one of their own, or would they see a monster? Just as he was about to cut the connection, a voice crackled through the comms. It was Hale's voice, clear and firm. "We hear you, Tyler. Stay strong. Help is on the way." Tyler's heart lifted at the sound of Commander Hale's voice. It was a small comfort, a reminder that he wasn't alone. But he also knew that his real fight wasn't with the Chlorvians anymore. It was with the virus inside him, and that fight was just beginning. As the ship flew deeper into the unknown, Tyler felt the pull of the virus again. It was like a constant pressure in his chest, a weight that made him feel both invincible and fragile at the same time. He had to stay focused. He had to keep his mind sharp, no matter how powerful the virus made him feel. But the virus wasn't done with him yet. It wasn't just inside him anymore, it was him. He could feel it, like a shadow following every thought, every action. It was in his blood, in his muscles, in his mind. It had taken root, and no matter how hard he tried to push it away, it kept coming back. He could feel the laughter again, that familiar, mocking sound, but this time it wasn't just a joke. It was something darker. The virus was showing him what he could be, what he was becoming. It wanted him to embrace it, to give in to the power it offered. The temptation was strong. It whispered promises of strength, of power beyond anything he had ever known. But Tyler wasn't ready to give in. He wouldn't give in. He couldn't. Not when everything he had ever known, everything he had fought for, was on the line. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared, breaking his concentration. Tyler's heart skipped a beat as he looked at the navigation screen. The Chlorvian fleet was back. They had found him again. There were too many of them this time. Dozens of Chlorvian ships, their sleek, deadly forms cutting through space with terrifying precision. They were closing in on him, their weapons charging, ready to destroy him. Tyler's hands tightened on the controls, his mind racing. He wasn't going to run again. This time he was going to fight. The virus roared to life inside him, its power surging, and Tyler could feel the energy coursing through his body. It was like he could sense every ship, every weapon, every move they made. The virus was amplifying his senses, pushing him to fight. But he couldn't let it control him. He had to use it, not let it use him. Tyler fired the ship's weapons, the blast striking the nearest Clorvian ship with precision. It exploded in a brilliant flash of light, but the Clorvians didn't back down. They were relentless, coming at him from every direction. Tyler's breath quickened as the battle intensified. His hands moved instinctively, his fingers pressing buttons, pulling levers, as if his body was working on its own. He was moving faster, thinking faster, reacting faster than ever before. The virus was pushing him, but he was still in control. One by one, the Clorvian ships fell. Tyler's hands were steady as he fired, his mind sharp as he outmaneuvered their attacks. He had no idea how he was doing it, but the virus inside him was guiding him, showing him how to fight. It wasn't just the ship's weapons. It was his instincts, his senses, his will to survive. But the Clorvians wouldn't stop. Tyler could see their reinforcements coming from all sides, more ships, more soldiers. They were closing in on him, and he knew he couldn't keep fighting forever. A new wave of Clorvian ships appeared, larger and more powerful. Their weapons fired relentlessly, and Tyler's ship rocked under the impact. The virus surged inside him, but it wasn't enough. He could feel his body tiring, the strain of the battle taking its toll. Tyler's mind flashed to Earth, to his family, to everything he was fighting for. He wasn't going to let the Clorvians win. He wasn't going to let this virus take over. Not now, not when he was so close to winning. He slammed the ship's controls, using every ounce of his strength, his skill, and the virus's power to push forward. The ship lurched, and Tyler braced himself. The virus inside him was screaming, urging him to take the final step, to embrace the full power. But Tyler wasn't going to give in. With one final, desperate move, Tyler launched the ship into a controlled spiral, crashing through the enemy fleet. The ship's hull groaned under the pressure, but it held together, the Clorvian ships caught off guard by his sudden change in tactics. The shockwave from the explosion ripped through space, taking down several more Clorvian vessels. Tyler's ship limped away from the wreckage, his hands shaking on the controls. His body was worn, his mind exhausted, but he had done it. He had survived. The Clorvian fleet was scattered, and they wouldn't be coming back anytime soon. Tyler looked at the stars outside the window, the quiet of space filling the cockpit. He had fought. He had survived. And for the first time, he felt the virus inside him calm, as if it too had realized the battle was over. But the war was far from won. He wasn't sure what would happen next. Would the virus continue to evolve? Would it eventually consume him? He didn't know. But he knew one thing for sure: he would keep fighting. He wouldn't let this alien power define him. Tyler Manning had survived against impossible odds. And as long as he had breath in his lungs, he would keep proving that humanity. He was not something to be underestimated. The virus might be inside him, but Tyler was still himself. And he was ready for whatever came next. Tyler Manning's body was a map of exhaustion, his every movement a battle against the sheer weight of what he had become. The virus inside him had given him power, more power than he could have ever imagined, but it was also taking from him. It was changing him, warping his humanity, turning him into something other than human. He could feel it now, deep inside, a constant hum of energy, of power, but the price was steep. The more he relied on the virus, the more it demanded control. The Clorvians were still out there. They hadn't given up. Even after the chaos he had caused, they had regrouped, and now they were coming for him in full force. Tyler knew it wasn't over. No matter how much he fought, no matter how many ships he destroyed, the Clorvians would not stop until they had him. The stars outside his ship's cockpit stretched into long, beautiful lines as he sped through space. The ship was damaged, but still functional. It had taken a beating in the last battle, but it had held together just like he had. His hands gripped the controls tighter as the familiar pain in his chest flared up again. The virus, like a beast inside him, clawed at his mind, urging him to give in. It whispered promises of victory, of power, but Tyler refused to listen. Not yet. He couldn't lose control. Not when Earth needed him. Not when he still had a chance to stop the Clorvians from taking everything he had fought for. Tyler's eyes flicked to the communications console. The faint, static-filled signal from Earth Command was still active, a lifeline in the cold expanse of space. His fingers hovered over the controls, and for a moment he considered calling Commander Hale again. He needed to know that Earth was still out there, still fighting with him. But the moment passed. He didn't have time for comfort right now. He had to fight. His mind raced with the images of the Clorvian fleet, the sleek ships moving like predators through space, their weapons glowing with deadly intent. He had taken down so many of them already, but this time would be different. This time there was no running. This time it was do or die. Tyler took a deep breath, trying to steady his thoughts. The virus inside him pulsed again, sending a surge of heat through his body. He could feel the energy coursing through his veins, his senses sharp, his muscles ready to explode into action. He had learned how to harness it, how to use it, but it was always there, just beneath the surface, waiting to take over. The Clorvian ships were coming fast, their dark silhouettes against the backdrop of the stars, cutting through the emptiness like sharks in the water. Tyler had no doubt they were out for blood. They weren't just after him, they were after the virus, the power it gave him. They would never stop hunting him until they had it under their control. His hands gripped the controls, and the ship responded, the engines roaring to life, pushing him forward with incredible speed. He didn't know how much longer he could keep running, how much longer he could stay ahead of them. He needed a plan, a way to end this once and for all. Then, through the static of the comms, a voice broke through. "Tyler, this is Commander Hale. We've tracked your position. We're coming to help." Tyler's heart surged with relief. Hale, his lifeline, Earth hadn't forgotten him. They were coming. But the relief was short-lived. The Clorvian fleet was closer now, their weapons charged and ready. He had no more time to wait. His hands flew over the controls, punching in a series of commands. The ship's systems responded quickly, but Tyler knew it wasn't enough. He couldn't outrun them forever. The Clorvians were faster, smarter. They would catch up eventually. Tyler glanced at the control panel, his mind racing. There was one last option. It was risky, dangerous. But it was the only way to make sure the Clorvians wouldn't follow him to Earth. It was the only way to stop them from tracking him. He didn't hesitate. He activated the ship's self-destruct sequence. The warning lights blinked red across the panel. A countdown appeared on the screen. Self-destruct in 5 minutes. Tyler's chest tightened. He knew what this meant. He wouldn't survive. But if he could take down the Clorvian fleet, if he could destroy the virus inside him in the process, it would be worth it. The virus inside him was screaming, urging him to stop. It was angry. It didn't want to be destroyed. It wanted to consume everything. But Tyler wasn't going to let it. He had to do this. He had to end it. Tyler's fingers hovered over the final button that would initiate the explosion. His heart was heavy with the weight of the decision. But as the countdown continued, he realized something. He wasn't just doing this for himself. He wasn't just saving Earth. He was doing this for everyone who had ever been underestimated, who had ever been pushed aside and told they were too small, too weak. He was doing this for humanity. With a final determined breath, Tyler hit the button. The ship shook violently as the self-destruct sequence engaged. Alarms blared in his ears, the warning lights flashing. He had no time to waste. He could already feel the Clorvian ships closing in, their weapons charging, their targeting systems locking onto him. But Tyler wasn't afraid anymore. The ship's systems exploded in a blinding flash, sending shockwaves through space. The Clorvian ships that had surrounded him were caught in the blast, their shields unable to withstand the sheer force of the explosion. The space around him was consumed by a brilliant burst of light, a massive shockwave that sent the enemy ships spiraling out of control. Tyler's vision blurred as the shockwave hit his ship, sending him hurtling through space. The ship was disintegrating around him, the force of the blast tearing everything apart. He could feel the virus inside him, wild and furious, but he was no longer afraid of it. He had done what he needed to do. The Clorvian fleet was shattered. They were gone. Tyler had won. As the debris from the explosion scattered across the void, Tyler's body went limp, his breath shallow. The virus had been defeated, its hold on him finally broken. But the cost had been high, too high. His vision darkened, and for a moment, Tyler thought he might pass out. But then, through the haze, he heard something, a voice. "Tyler, Tyler, are you there?" It was Hale's voice again, crackling through the comms. It was faint, distant, but it was there. And Tyler knew that Earth hadn't given up on him. They were still out there, still fighting. His fingers, numb and unsteady, reached for the comms. "Commander," he whispered, his voice weak. "I did it." "You did, Tyler. We're on our way. Hold on." Tyler smiled weakly, his body still trembling but his heart light. He had done it. He had saved Earth. The Clorvian threat was over. And with that, Tyler Manning closed his eyes, knowing that he had done what no one thought was possible. He had become more than human. He had become the hero Earth needed, and he had saved humanity.